are right now. You are a child. You are enough. Child. You are enough.
And it is time now for First and 45 with Coach Fitzhugh, identifying social determinants contributing to the homicide epidemic, killing black males before the age of 45. For the next hour, get into the game with the Coach Fitzhugh, Pastor Drew Davis, and yours truly, Bishop Fred Harris. It's First and 45. Here's Pastor Drew Davis.
Good evening and welcome to the show tonight. We are excited to be here. We are excited to be here. I'm having a little mic problem here. It keeps falling on me. But this is First and 45, Coach. It's really crazy to me that you had moved some stuff into storage at the office and you were moving it out today. And I can't remember when you did. It was years ago. And I'm like, man, when's he going to ever use this again?
Yeah.
When's he going to ever use this again? And here we are. You're back in the saddle of helping shape these young men in college. It was a bittersweet game on Saturday night.
Yeah.
But for how far these young men went, just like all those things, I'm like, when are you going to ever use those? I mean, not long ago, we didn't think that there would be a basketball season for these young men
this time last year.
Yeah. And for them to make it to their championship for their conference. But to look at how in the world God works, man, he's wanting to put us in the game. We talked a little bit about that with some individuals tonight. I'm going to talk about it more. And then I know that what you're covering tonight, man, we've got a lack of good men in this world, and we got to get more of them to stepping up and
speaking of
calling a sin, no question, calling a foul. So, Bishop, before we jump in, do you mind opening us up in a word of prayer?
Absolutely. God, we're grateful just to be able to come together once again on tonight. Thank you for the amazing things that you're doing. And we know it takes, you said, if you be willing and obedient, we would eat the good of the land. And so thankful that we're able to celebrate these wins on tonight, but it's all because of you. Help each of us to continue the path of representing your kingdom and breaking and destroying yokes through leading persons to you. In Jesus' name we pray. Amen.
Amen. And as always, I like to kick things off with the why. It's about the hungry. America has a hunger crisis. 44 million people affected. Arkansas is still the hunger state of them all. It's about the widow. The United States has the highest rate of single-parent households in the world, with nearly 24 million children growing up in homes led by one parent. And that means millions of families navigating life without the full support system they were designed to have. Scripture calls us to care for the orphan, but the question is, are we really doing it? Because right now we have over 391,000 children in the foster care, nearly 4,000 of them right here in Arkansas. And when they age out, the system doesn't launch them, it leaves them. Within 2 years, most of them will face incarceration, early parenthood, or homelessness. And if we don't step in, we're not rescuing children, we're recycling trauma. And here's the hard truth. Only about half of teen mothers finish high school, compared to nearly 9 out of 10 young women who wait. And most teen mothers begin that journey alone. And even when marriage comes later, it's often fragile and short-lived. Teen pregnancy doesn't just interrupt a season, it redirects a life. It's about the poor. Poverty grips 38 million Americans, and kids of color bear the brunt of that. Right here in Arkansas, our schools have identified 17,000 students as homeless. It's about addiction. By the time they hit their teenage years, millions of American kids have already started experimenting with alcohol and drugs. It's about the prisoner. The U.S. leads the world in the total number of incarcerations with more than 2 million people. At Every Arkansan, our vision is clear. It's to see more people chasing their God-given dreams, but too often those dreams are limited not by talent, not by ambition, but by the zip code someone was born into. And that's why we're proud to host First and 45 with Coach Fitzhugh, a show dedicated to confronting the realities facing our young men. And here's the reality we cannot ignore. The number one cause of death for black males 0 to 44 is homicide. It's not cancer, not heart disease, not car accidents. It is homicide. And if we want to see dreams pursued, we must first confront the forces that are cutting lives short. And tonight, I want to ask a question Might make you feel uncomfortable, men, but it's necessary. But where are the men? I mean, not where are they in the streets, not where are they in the headlines, but where are they in the church? Because if we're honest, many churches today are full, but the men are missing.
Yep.
It's an overwhelming majority of women occupying our churches, which is great for the women. They're getting what the word of God has got for them. But man, we got a lot of men that are missing out. And when men go missing in the pews, they often show up in the problems we're trying to solve outside of the church. And let me say that again. When men disappear from the church, they don't disappear from society. They just show up somewhere else.
Mm-hmm.
And
well, it's just like that deal I just showed you a while ago. When they close schools, the kids got to show up someplace else.
Yep. Mm-hmm.
So that's what they were saying is that now, and I thought that's why I wanted you to see that, because I thought the comparison was really strong, because it says, okay, when kids stop coming to school, okay, so you have to close down the schools because you can't afford it and it's not full. But if you have empty prison beds, he said, you're not closing down the prisons. I just thought that was an interesting correlation, even though we understand the context of safety. I'm not, but the parallel comparison is what I'm saying is that today, and you know, and we all want safer communities, but what we're looking at, and you're talking about men being in their rightful place, would address a lot of issues that we talk about on Tuesday evenings.
Oh, absolutely. I mean, and too often that somewhere else is that unstructured, undisciplined, unaccounted environment.
Yep.
That
feels good.
Feels good.
Yeah.
But it doesn't produce any fruit.
No.
And let's be clear. This is not about blaming men. This is about understanding that we have a gap, and then how do we address it? Because something has shifted. I mean, I look at when I grew up, and the church that I attended, it was, I mean, every family was represented by men.
Oh, no. Oh.
And there were single men. There was an engagement that meant somewhere we started shifting. There was a time when the church was the central place for men, not just to sit, but to lead, to serve, to grow, and to be sharpened. And today, many men feel disconnected, disconnected from the message, from the culture, from the mission. And if a man doesn't feel needed, he eventually stops showing up. And that was something that we talked about today. Mr. Howe, I would see him at church every once in a while and all of this, but this was a man who had lost his job. He hadn't found another one. He was seriously doing nothing during the days. And I started inviting him, hey, why don't you come hang out with the kids? Come cook with the kids. He loved cooking. And his wife told me, please keep inviting him. Please keep inviting him. And it was months and months and months. And then he showed up and he started cooking for the kids. And he actually died sitting in a chair watching some pork butts cook for a recovery ministry, because his world turned into, I am going to cook for anyone that needs it in this church, in this ministry, in this world. He got that calling. I mean, 1 Corinthians 16:13 says, be watchful, stand firm in the faith, act like men, be strong. He went from being weak to strong by serving. Mm-hmm. And we've got so many men that are doing the opposite. They think they're strong, but when they start stepping out of actually serving, their strength is just weakness. Mm-hmm. It might be masked by busyness or clothes or flash and circumstance, but it's nothing. And that verse speaks directly to responsibility, strength, and spiritual leadership. But if men are not present, who's modeling that for the next generation? I look at our church, Coach. We're the old guys.
Yeah, that's right.
We've got a lot of young men that need way more old guys, way more guys with a little bit of gray, way more guys that have been through the ringer on some things.
And I often say, we have, and what you're saying, we have experience. And my definition of experience is that when you don't get what you want.
And I mean, we've got a generation that doesn't understand that.
Yeah, exactly right. So you learn from it, and so you practice it. And so, experience is what you get when you don't get what you want.
Yeah.
So you can go back and you can say we learned from it. So, and in my assistance to the president of Arkansas Baptist College, just as a, consulting guideline for him is just, hey, listen, this is what I was successful with, and this is what I failed with. You can make the choice, but I'm giving you based off my experiences, because I had a lot of crisis that I had to fight through. And so in life, that's what you're saying there with the young man, is that, I call it substitute learning.
Oh, yeah.
I tell my son, if you listen to what I say, you won't have to do it. So here's a substitute, like in school, you have substitute teacher, right? Well, I call it substitute learning. You don't have to go through it if you just take my advice. But if you want to go through it, then, then you're going to have to learn the hard way.
Two ways to learn: through your own personal experiences, or you can learn through the experiences of others. Amen. And that's the hard way and the easy way. Yeah. The easy way is allow someone else who's been through it to be a voice to encourage you through it.
And when we talk about violence, we're talking about young men making decisions that cost them their lives and their freedom. We're not just talking about, I didn't get the job.
Right.
We're talking about lives. I mean, and here's a question we don't ask enough. What happens when young men grow up with no spiritual mentorship in their life? I mean, what happens when they don't see men praying, leading, serving, building? What happens when their only models of manhood they see come from the streets or social media or survival culture? Mm-hmm. I mean, I look at some of these social media posts all the time of these grown adults acting like 2-year-olds because they got the wrong answer. They got told no, or they got told wait. They didn't learn patience. They didn't get it their way.
Proverbs 22:6.
Exactly.
They didn't get to raise up a child in the way he should go. But that's parenting. And I think the thing we have to understand too, when, understanding what comes out in therapy, is that what you're describing is the traumatized boy that has not been healed. And so even though we have this perception that we're man, the emotional state of ours is that of a boy. And so when that triggers of an unhealed young man, then that's what you get. It's that boy that just steps out of there. And until that little boy is healed, he's going to behave like that.
Yep.
And then oftentimes that little boy is what ends up being shackled and before the judge.
Absolutely.
Because it's that behavior that has been triggered that led to a response. Now, then that little boy subsides, and then, the man comes out, but he didn't even know what was going up. But now you're standing in front of the judge trying to describe what what your behavior, but you don't really know because it hadn't been defined for you. And that's a tragedy for everybody, because as we talk about each week, the pain that you have brought on your family, the pain you have brought on somebody else's family, is because of that little boy has responded in a negative way.
Yeah. And I mean, they, like you said, they create their own definition, and that definition is built on dominance instead of discipline, pride instead of purpose, reaction instead of restraint. And that's not because they're broken. That's because they're untrained.
Right.
I mean, and here's the hard truth. If the church doesn't disciple young men, the streets are going to.
No question.
The streets will teach them how to survive, or how to respond to disrespect. The streets will teach them how to earn, how to react, and how to protect. But the streets will not teach them how to build. And I think that's one of the things that when the church fails to show up, we've got a generation that no longer can build anything. They can just kind of be there. And when they're there, they're not really there. It's just kind of like a warm body just floating around out there, not
no
adding
purpose.
Any value, no purpose. And this is where, the cost shows up. We see it in the headlines. We see it in the homicide numbers. We see it in funerals. But what we're really seeing is the outcome of a deeper issue. And that's the absence of men in places where character is formed.
Yep.
Proverbs 27:17, iron sharpens iron, but sharpening requires proximity. It requires relationship. It requires time. You can't sharpen what you're not connected to. And when we start to see all of these kids out there running around just amok, so to speak, they're not connected to anything. They're not grounded to anything. Man, there is no possibility of those kids changing their trajectory because a dull knife sitting on the counter is going to stay dull. It's
ain't
not
no
until you pick it up and start rubbing it against the stone, you get it in your hand, you start working it. That's what our young people need.
Mm-hmm.
And that was one of the things when we look at Arkansas Baptist that scares me to death is in the absence of that institution.
Mm-hmm.
Those young men have no stone to sharpen them.
No. Yeah.
When we look at our schools, without men in those schools, without teachers in those schools, those young men grow up missing those role models, missing out on those opportunities. And many of our young men are growing up disconnected from the very environments that are designed to shape them.
Right. And to your point, that's why ABC is so invaluable. And everything we're doing from Saturday from every Kansas, I mean, those are serving opportunities.
Absolutely.
That we must have an opportunity to give back. That's how we step in the gap.
Exactly.
Hey, we're gonna have to take a quick break. Bishop, Pastor Drew, Coach Fitz, stay tuned for the second half. We'll be right back.
You lying in the rain, in the sun. God is good.
Hey guys, Drew here, and for the last 11 years, we've worked together to build the Arkansas Dream Center. And over those years, things have grown, opportunities have happened, but we've continued to focus on that mission of every Arkansan chasing their God-given dream. And for that very reason, our corporation is actually known as Every Arkansan Inc. We have two ministries that really work together in tandem to see that mission take place. We have the Arkansas Dream Center, which is going out and we're reaching out to the communities. We're in those communities with mobile trucks. We're doing after school, we're feeding, we're doing all those things you know us for doing. But in addition, we realize that the church is the answer to a lot of society's problems, and there's one on every corner. So we have City Serve that comes along the side of the church, and they provide the resources. They provide furniture and clothing and diapers and all these things to the local churches so they can reach out to their neighbors. And together, when those two start to mesh, we're going out and we're doing, and we're bringing the churches alongside of them, and we're equipping and we're resourcing those churches. We can truly empower the local church with the resources they need to strengthen relationships in their communities. And that's what our vision is for Every Arkansan Inc. And we're so glad you're a part of it.
God is good all the time. God is good.
And we are back with First and 45 for Every Arkansan. This is all about violence, and this is a community problem because when men are absent spiritually, it affects families, neighborhoods, decision-making, conflict resolution, identity formation, and eventually it shows up in public safety. I've heard a lot of people complaining about the license plate readers all over town. I've heard them complaining about the shot spotter things and all that. I mean, when we try to take technology and we say, well, technology is going to fix our problem. Technology, AI, none of that will fix our mentoring problem of young men.
No question.
It takes skin on skin. It takes relationships. So how do we bring men back? And I think part of the answer is this. Men don't just want to attend church. They want to be needed by it. They want responsibility, brotherhood, challenge, purpose. And Coach, we were talking about a gentleman today that we've both been trying to reach, and several other people that were in the conversation have a burden for this man. And when you ask him to serve in a certain capacity, regardless of all of his other issues, he shows up because he's needed. And Jesus didn't just gather men, he sent them. He sent them with a mission. He gave them assignments. He gave them mission. He gave them responsibility. And maybe that's what we've got to recover in a lot of this stuff.
But those men were developed men. They may not have been developed spiritually,
right?
But they were developed from a community perspective. That's why they were able to get along so well. But today, you know, we talked about the church early in the first quarter. But if we don't, like the Bible says, train them up as children the way they should go, but it becomes difficult to do it as men, as we see every day.
Right. And I just, from a standpoint, like the challenges that I see in communication, it has to be with how people are digesting information that they receive and how they're filtering it. And oftentimes when you look at people and you see that, okay, how are they interpreting what I'm saying? And what I've realized is that they're interpreting things through their own life experiences. And most of the young people I've been dealing with, through DYS and things like that, I'm realizing from talking to them the more I get to know them, and my patience has grown because I realize we try to evaluate people based on our own experiences, not the experiences of others. And so just like today, I took a young lady to therapy. And I had to excuse her out of class because she was a disruption in class, and she's been in our program. But I went to her house last week, and unfortunately, talking about family situation, I had to sit there and I had to call and do some background and see the easiest thing to do. And this is what God has taught me, patience in dealing with this. Number one, as I looked at this female, I said, okay, she's somebody's daughter. Okay. But I listened to her podcast, and that's when I started understanding how her struggles have been in her life. So so when I'm talking to her, she's not processing what I'm receiving. And Dr. Prince has helped me understand this a lot. And this is why many times these children are given medication, okay? And they're not given medication to be healed. They're given medication to be soothed. And that's a big difference. And so, but how do we get them out of that? And that's why what we're doing from a Meta 24 standpoint, the therapeutic way of education, rather than telling child, sit down and be in timeout, is the worst thing that we can do to a person. All right? And so, and that's what we do. And then we get upset when they don't be still. And then, but you don't know what's going on in their bodies. And so, I took her to therapy this morning. That's what I told you I did. And so, and so she said, well, am I going to be able to come back? I said, well, I have to talk to the therapist. I said, because number one, you have been a disruption. And so and I said, but I'm going to work through this process because I don't want to suspend, but I understand. And I got to find, rather than put you out, I said, I got to find an alternative means to educate, because the easiest thing for that child, and she's experienced so much in her life, and that's the first thing she thought. So you put me out too? Well, I said no, but I'm saying I have to find the right formula to educate you. All right, and so now I don't have the therapeutic needs, that she will require. And so as I was talking to Dr. Prince about the way to go about it, so I'm going to meet with her therapist, and I'm going to see if we can't come up with individualized game plan for her. But I say that, male or female, if we're not intentional about working with those individuals who have those challenges, that's what we're calling the pipeline to prison. And once they get in that situation, all the therapy and counseling they can get is behind the bars. And it's the very best treatment that's available that you can do. As I often say, you get your teeth fixed, okay? If you need, you got any type of treatment you get is there. And so, but what hoping that we can do, Drew, in our future in a therapeutic day type of school, is that we can look, it's only one or two, it's not that the mass number we're talking about, but the qualitative approach of those kids getting the best things they need is invaluable as we assess the needs of the child and their family.
Yeah. And that's, the church is not a place you go, but it's a place where people are built.
Correct.
When men are built spiritually, they show up differently everywhere else. This young lady that you're talking about, she didn't have that. She wasn't built. No one understood this concept of building.
I talked to her grandmother. That's the only person I've had a chance to talk to when I went to her house. Not father. Mother's not even in the picture.
Yep. And then you got the coping mechanisms. You talk about that a little bit. The meds. The number of meds on average these kids.
And I wish he could show his milk crate that he carried around.
Yeah.
It was just a few days at a time with the meds, and that was crazy.
Yeah. Yeah, I from a standpoint to be able to understand, I had no idea, but let me say this: I understand why in the situation of what we're trying to work with, and for good reasons. Now, the thing you can say, well, I wouldn't give them that. Well, if you work, you may say that.
Yep.
But you're not understanding me. It puts them in a learning mood, rather than the challenges that they have. Because listen, I have attention deficit disorder. I know that. All right. That's why I didn't. I write well, but I didn't test well because my mind will just jump off because, like that from a multiple choice. I mean, I could read something and something come up in my mind before I answer the question. But we don't oftentimes know, what those children have been through.
Right.
That led to the experience. And that's the reason that as I look, those three core factors that I often talk about, teenage pregnancy, third school, elementary school suspension, and poverty. I mean, those are the things that we have to address if we're trying to be transformative. Right. Everything else is transactional. I'm telling you, I mean, we can go and serve a meal and do that, but you haven't changed anything. Right. And I'm looking for transformational. Everything else, even when we serve it now, kid, yes, we want to feed them, and we want to make them feel better about their situation. On Saturday morning, we want to help grow hope in a child that they're looking forward to something the next weekend. But if we're not changing the situation for them to help them empower themselves, then it's really for us.
Yeah, and I mean, Proverbs 4:7 says, "Wisdom is the principal thing; therefore, get wisdom." And wisdom doesn't just come from information. It comes from discipleship. And I think far too often we look at our kids out there, they've got access to more information than they've ever had before. Mm-hmm. But the number one predictor for the outcome of a student is a relationship with the teacher. Amen. That's discipleship. When you look at the number one predictor of the health of a child, it's the relationship with their parents. Mm-hmm. It's about discipleship. And I mean, I don't know where we've gotten away from discipleship so much of the time. I mean, where this disconnect with men is fairly obvious to me. So what's it going to take to rebuild these pathways, to get men back in the church and all that? And I kind of came up with 5 things before we close out this half. If we want men back in church, we have to move them from spectators to builders.
Yep.
They've got to have a calling like the old pioneers. We're going to cut down these trees and we're going to build this house and we're going to do this. They've got a responsibility, not just a seat. And men come alive when they're needed. So the church has got to create roles where men can lead, mentor, protect, and serve. If we tell all of our men, the only role we've got for you is to greet at the front door or to work in the kids' ministry changing dirty diapers, it ain't going to change anything. We've got to rebuild the brotherhood. We've got to get men connected with other men. And if the message doesn't just speak to purpose, pressure, and responsibility, many men tune out. We must preach the faith that calls men up, not just comforts them. And the church must meet men where they are. We got a lot of men that are wandering out. We can't just expect them to show up at church. We're going to go out on the streets. We're going to go in the dark alleys. We're going to find them because we need more men in the church so that we can see more men out on the streets impacting these kids for discipleship. Hey, guys, that's the end of the first half of the show. Don't go anywhere, though. Coach is going to be right back with a great message for you guys.
No codeine in my eyes. Yeah, I'm gonna walk by faith and not by Sprite. Yeah, gave up all my burdens, that's on Christ. Yeah, that means everything's gonna be alright. I got a good thing by my side. Right through the pain in my 05. Look at my soul and you will see a fire.
Black men have so many different problems, so many different issues. Homicide rate, high incarceration rate, fatherless homes. What is America gonna do about it?
What are we going to do about it? Yeah, what are we going to do about it? When I say we, I'm talking to black men. I'm asking us, what are we going to do about issues that negatively impact black men and boys to a greater degree than other demographics? Everybody knows about the homicide epidemic in this country regarding black men and boys. While comprising only 6% of the nation's population, will account for 50% of the nation's homicide victims. So what are we going to do about it? Here's another disturbing reality. While making up only 6% of the nation's population, we're about 40% of the nation's prison population. In fact, 1 in 3 black males are projected to go to jail in their lifetime. Again, I ask, what are we going to do about it? Collectively, black men have the means to solve these problems. We just don't have the mind to do so. And means without the mind is meaningless. Brother, it doesn't mean a thing.
Best believe this.
And we're back with First and 45 with Coach Fitzhugh. Thank you, Pastor Drew. Great first half. Coach, it is it's work creating these wins, especially for these youth, the troubled youth, as well as the young men that Pastor Drew was talking about. But God blessed you last week. You were really had some great things happening, some doors opening up, and creating some wind behind the back. You had the coach here last week, and the Buffaloes. It was a blessing to see Coach here, just to hear him talk about. And I know it was a blessing to you to see that the team is coming together.
I can't explain it. I mean, it's only has to be the Lord to be able to, to be in this field, outreach, leading the outreach in church, and then have an opportunity to apply that in the day to day. It's just really, I think in this, it's something that I'm tired, but I'm inspired, and it's something to be tired and be inspired rather than just be tired and be dull, and it's really, so, you can just, most times you say I fall asleep reading, because I'm trying to, but it's good rest, and having an opportunity to know, how we're going to bless these young men who wouldn't get blessings otherwise. We're not Arkansas Baptist College, it's not trying to compete with UALR. We're not trying to compete with UCA, and the population of men that we're trying to serve, it's a buffet. It's all you want. All you have to build infrastructure, because this is not Harvard. This is not Princeton, not even Howard University, where, you're looking for a standard.
It's the beginning of hope.
It's the beginning of hope. That's what we say, growing hope. And hope stands for helping other people evolve. And that's what you do. And that's what education. And I was someplace and said, well, Coach, what do you do now? I said, well, I guess if you're going to give me a title, I'm an educational evangelist. I said, that's what I do. I evangelize education. All right. Hey, you want to do this? I got a deal today. It said, Coach, we have our recommendations. We're ready for you to come. We're getting ready to start our second cohort of boot camp in May when all the kids go home. I think we're going to be up to 20 this time. So I got my questionnaire. I'm so excited about this. And what I'm really excited about is that the 5 individuals that are in school right now telling me who we need. Now, that's what y'all think about. Coach, I've been talking, because they go back on the weekend, right? Coach, I've been talking to them, and I've been telling them, this what it's like. Coach Hill, he don't take no stuff now. But now they got some pride about them, because they said they want to come where we are. So they're going to be the counselors. Yeah. Okay, so it's coming full circle, and then hopefully they'll have a chance to go get a job. But they're going to be the meta mentors for the next boot camp. So I'll start. We'll get 20. Our goal is to be able each year, as a transitional institution for those, is to have 100 youth come through our doors every year in the Meta 24 program. And when that happens, okay, I'm looking 10 years from now, since, when Pastor Drew presented that information, about 86% of juveniles in detention facilities will recidivate within 5 years, with the average prison sentence being 12. That's been like an anchor in my heart to say, okay, so now how do we change that trajectory? That we already know that. And that's why it's important to attach church to a mission of transformation, not just an attendance mode. You know, you have to be able to, because we can all go to church and feel good, but how do we apply this? And I feel blessed to be able to be in a position to say, okay, we want to change these children's life. Now, there's going to be some ups and downs. There's going to be some hiccups. There's going to be some worries, you know, all those things that go. But that's what happens when you change things, you know. And so looking at how we can really go back and change, you know, the negative things that have led to these decisions is what the basis of First and 45 really is. Because oftentimes, you know, I was with Dean Northcross 2 weeks ago at a funeral of one of our teammates that died. So I picked him up at the airport and we drove to Oak Grove, Louisiana, and you know, and then drove back. But he's always, you know, on the video, he's always talking about the importance of Black men being very active and very present in the communities. You know, and sometimes he said he gets, you know, pushback because he says, you know, well, do you just have to have Black men? And he said, no. He said, but I'm telling you, he said, that's, you know, in serving our communities, this is what he said, this is what our young Black boys need to see. They need to see this is the identifiable role model that's not there. So it's already a void. So now, so why are you going to lessen the need of it by saying, okay, we can just put anybody in there? And so now in your mind, can I do that? But when you see somebody look like you, then, you know, then you feel like, okay, hey, I'm empowered to do that. And when I bring up the subject of leadership, of the leadership void creating a Black community by absent fathers, I often get that response and says, you know, well, they're fatherless in all communities. And to that, I usually respond by saying, you are correct. But in the Black community, the crisis is an epic proportion in the African-American communities, and in my opinion, should be examined in isolation. I don't think you can aggregate all of them and say, here, this is such a crisis that it's like, okay, when you're treating cancer, all right, you're not saying, well, let's treat it like heart disease, or let's treat it like this. No, you're treating cancer. So what do you have a specialty? Now, if you have heart disease, you go to the heart. Okay, so I'm saying we have this crisis in our communities, and we're not addressing it in isolation because everyone is different. Nobody else has the number one cause of death in any other ethnicity is homicide, but the Black community. Okay. Right. So now why do we want to aggregate that into everybody else to make, I don't know. I mean, and so my deal is, you know, I have a son-in-law, and 3 grandsons, and y'all know them. So my brain is that, okay, if they don't make it to 45, this is what the data tells me. Okay. And then 90% of those, what it says, will be killed by somebody from our community. Now, that's what the data says. Feelings are not facts. Facts are facts. All right. So I'm addressing the facts, and to remain silent in this, I'm part of the problem. All right. I admire, you know, our civil rights leaders because they spoke up for such a time as that. But this is for such a time as this. And we have to address this for the issue that it really is. And so I showed you the other day when I looked at the NCAA tournament, and I see this being allowed and nobody saying anything about it. I see McNeese State, for, you know, look, y'all know I'm a sport nuts, okay? All right, but when I see them coming out with a boombox and all of the curse words and all of the things that it's saying, and the whole team is singing it, and they're allowing this to be played. So I'm saying, well, wait a minute. That's a reflection of everybody in that administration, that they're not even saying this is what your school. So it's not in isolation. No. All right. And Bishop's going to play that when we come back. But I'm saying, because that's the subliminal message that's in our body. When you can repeat that, all those stones, you probably hadn't heard that song but 10 or 12 times, and you know the word verbatim. And so now you're singing all of this negativity stuff in your brain, in your mind. Then just last night, 2 nights ago, University of Alabama lead point guard got arrested, had 2.1 marijuana. So maybe not don't play Friday in the NCAA. Really, all right, and 2.2 was a deal from maybe not even getting out, but he had 2.1 pounds worth of marijuana on the deal. And so, but I'm saying, listen, this is the things that we're dealing with. These are the social ills that are leading to the bad decision, because I was sharing with the DYS about students, most instances that had led to your decision was under the influence. You were in the wrong place with the wrong people doing the wrong thing, and now you have to suffer the consequences. Yes. Well, if we don't tell them that that's not acceptable and that's not right, and we sit over here and say, well, that's just boys being boys, okay? Then we're going to pay for the consequences. And that's why I'm saying we have to speak up about the tragedies that's taking place, and we can't treat everything the same. Like I always say, I reference cancer as an example. Everybody diagnosed with cancer is not impacted and treated the same. Right. You got different techniques, that how you are handling it. Some people have to go for intensive, treatment, and some people have to do others. But some forms of cancer are most deadly than others, and that's what I'm saying. That's why we have to speak out. David Pompano in his book, Life Without Fathers. I mean, one of the best books I've ever read. And this is what he says as we go into the fourth quarter before we come back with that video. He says, father absence is a major force lying behind many attention-grabbing issues that dominate the news. That's what we're going to get ready to play. Many issues. He said crime and delinquency, premature sexuality, and out-of-wedlock teen birth. That's what I've been saying. Yep. That's okay. Yep. Deteriorating educational achievement, depression, substance abuse, and alienation among teenagers, and the growing number of women and children in poverty. Man, just like I didn't even know it was almost to the point of what I'm talking, but that's what he said. And that's a father, because listen, if you have a responsible father in a situation with his children, we all want those to be successful, because like I said, the only person who wants their child to be more successful than them is the father.
Yes.
That's why you're in the game. With my anxiety of my son playing ball, I wanted him to be more successful than me on the football, basketball field. I saw myself in that. I didn't get until last week watching the Arkansas Baptist College Buffaloes play. The first time I had that same type of anxiety, because they're kind of like my sons.
But when I saw you in the stands, because I was watching on video, it's just like, you could tell you were stressed.
I was, because I'm sitting there coaching the game, because I know, I said, man, this I go to NBA game or go to something, I get me some popcorn. I don't care who, hey, look, that's good. But I'm attached to those individuals, and understanding how many of them had come from this situation because of the fatherlessness that we have in our society. And it says, listen, this is what he also says. These issues all point to a profound deterioration in the well-being of children. So without the fathers, we're facing something that's deteriorating our communities. And so it's important that we have these individuals and when we have to replace them, that's what we're trying to do in the many instances of doing that. Well, I hear the music playing. I know we're going to go into break. Bishop Fred has, hey, stay tuned, because I want you to see what I was talking about. And I'm saying, how is this permitted in 2026 as we get ready to head into the NCAA tournament? And I bet nobody said anything about it. Yeah. I mean, hey, stay tuned. We'll be right back. 1st and 45 with Coach Fitz, Bishop Fred, Pastor Drew. We'll be right back.
As a former football coach, knowing the engagement that takes place on the football field, the basketball courts, the track, baseball, outside of extracurricular activity, META is the best academic curriculum I've seen for the oftentimes socially challenged student. And glad to have to have a pilot program going here now with Hamilton Learning Academy, as well as juvenile detention facility, to inspire, grow hope to a population of kids who sometimes don't believe that in the United States that life, liberty, and the pursuit of happiness is for them. And so this opportunity allows them to see that, to feel that, and to engage in that, and to leave here thinking that I can do something that maybe they didn't think they could do prior to enrolling in the Meta 24 program.
All right, who's the CFO? Yeah. Come on up. Give the CFO a round of applause. All right, what's the marketing promotion team?
My name is Shania, and I make this pillow. It's a baby pillow for baby. It can be for a boy or for a girl. It's saying, be what you want to be. I really want to make a side hustle of this and give pillows to the hospital so you don't get good rest. So soft pillows like this.
Richard, I want to 3D print some stuff that will help us in the world. I would love to print 3D houses to help architects build real houses, because there's a lot of people in the world that homeless right now, and I feel like if I'm able to print 3D houses, I feel like architects can make more houses faster.
Man, Bobo in his mouth. I'm so fresh, I know she wanna fuck. Make her long. If they catch it, I'm in how about walking face down. Then I swear like that top nigga. Wipe it down. If they got that top nigga, you just stop to leave you found. I just came through. It ain't hard to tell it. I got money. I just came through. Then I come from that. What if I got bad truck?
Wow.
And as the guy that edited that thing, I'm like, man, what is Coach's point? He wanted me to silence all the cursing.
That's it. Exactly.
And I'm like, man, there's a whole.
I started calling him and saying, is there something wrong with the thing is wrong because there's more cursing than there was.
So now that's coming out. They're playing that on promoting that. This is on.
It's like their walk-on music.
That's their walk-on music, and they're going to the NCAA finals. They will be playing that this week again because that guy has become this figure that started last year. So now, I love.
It bothered me about the degrading the women.
Yes, that's what I'm saying. All right. And so now I have no problem with the young man and the team. I would do something but I would just pick a different beat. Or with less vulgar, play the clean copy, the clean version. I mean, I'm just saying, but why do we have to come out there and you see children listening to this? And which brings me to my next issue of the NBA, and Magic City in Atlanta. Have you heard about that? Have you heard?
I don't think so.
Okay, all right. So I'm in Atlanta. For my guys, we're playing ball. Right. Well, I have guys who helped me recruit in Atlanta down there, coaches. Atlanta was my recruiting area. So I called and said, hey, the Buffalo's coming to town. And I said, hey, man, you want to come to the game with me and stuff? Because, we're making an effort to recruit back. Because at one point we had over 300 kids from Atlanta because I had a board member from Atlanta there. So hopefully do some other things. Hopefully we'll do some other things in Atlanta. But while I was there, he said, well, you heard what's going on with the NBA. And I said, no, what's happening? He said, the NBA and Magic City are doing a branding promotion together. I said, Magic City? Well, Magic City is a strip club. I said, and I said, well, wait a minute. How does that work? With families, and D1, the rapper, he's the only reason that it didn't happen, because he made a stand and he said, how are we going to take? And I applaud D1. I hope God will allow me to meet him one day to commend him on taking that stand. And he had a lot of people right now to be upset with him, because that was going to be a major deal, because Atlanta, they didn't come together. The Atlanta Hawks of the NBA was partnering with one of the largest strip clubs in Atlanta to say, we're partnering together, that we're going to do a deal. So it's a collaboration. letting a multi-billion-dollar brand partner with this, and do you know, like D1 said, who if all those men do you want those men in there looking at your daughters? So now you're promoting this, and I'm saying if you cannot as a brand and accept what we're saying, and it's really slow and really subtle, and that's why even that little rap music right there, that's
become influencers.
That's the music that's played in the club. That's where it comes from.
Wow.
All right. So you just said they were demeaning women, right?
Yep, I heard. That's what I was.
That's
when I was prepping it for you.
Right. Right. Whoa. All right. So when you go in there, that's what they were talking about. So as a father of two daughters, and understanding, like D1 says, how do we sit back, and who would sit up in a office and say that's okay? That's what I want to know. So who would be in the NBA and from the marketing team and let somebody come in and say, we want to do a marketing promotion with Magic City, and we accept it, and it was announced on the radio. And when my guys say, you know that's what's going on, that's getting ready, that NBA say, you got to be out of your mind. And I'm glad it didn't come to fruition. But what's that is a moral erosion that's just taking place, and slowly, because you don't say anything. You know, that's what they're talking about. When people come in and they don't speak out against evil and they just keep on, next thing you know, evil is dominating in the whole situation, because we have the right to be silent, but the consequences of it against the word, you know, can produce an unwanted consequences. So that's why we must look back and understand who are making those decisions and where are their lively experiences coming from, that you can sit back over there and say that's going to be okay. I can't even fathom sitting in a situation and saying, okay, yeah, let's do that. And I mean, and everybody on the NBA, I can see Magic City because there's no telling how much money that was going to, as they call, make it rain, tonight. But I can't see the NBA saying, "Oh yeah, this is a great idea." You know, I can't see it.
And if they would take the beat out and just do the words by themselves, I believe the dynamics would change.
Oh, no question. It's the words. Right. That's what I'm saying. You can take that beat right there, and Fred, me and you'll bounce out there just with the beat.
That's right.
I mean, we get Drew. Right. Drew will shake his shoulders out there with us. You know what I'm saying? Drew can bounce like that. But now Drew ain't. Yeah. But Drew ain't gonna bounce like that when you hear the word. Right. Look, the word's a powerful thing. Yep. All right. What the Bible say about that?
Power of life and death is in the tongue.
It's in the tongue.
Yeah.
So when these kids are going there, so when you're thinking about this, and you're thinking about many times, just like when they're talking about the strip clubs, many of the women, you know, when they have fallen into that situation for survival or a lot of reasons that they are there, okay? But I bet you if you go back and if you did a study on the profile of a stripper, I bet you would find their lives are very similar and very compatible. I'm speaking, I don't know that, and y'all know I very rarely speak, but my hypothesis would be that their life experiences would come back to what he talked about without having a father.
Here's what's interesting in just kind of research. They were going to be selling their famous lemon pepper wings, and then they had limited merch that was going to be available at the thing. So there was money here. But the owner of the Hawks is Jamie Gertz, which is a female actress. She is the one that put the deal together. Not only did she do that, she did podcasts around it, and she produced a documentary called Magic City, an American Fantasy on this strip club. This is way deeper and more disturbing than I think we all know. This woman thought this was a good idea.
She was thinking
to exploit other women.
She was thinking from a business perspective.
Exactly. This was all about the money.
Is the root of all.
Yeah. I wonder how many dollars does she have? I'm just saying.
I don't know. T.I. performed at the halftime show on Monday night, even though that they didn't do this other. But I'm just like, this is crazy.
No, it's hard to understand that we have come to this, and I'm so proud of D1, the rapper, stepping up, the Christian rapper, and saying we can't allow this to go on.
Yeah.
You know, and speaking out about it, because when my partner, when my coaching friend told me that down there, I said, I thought he was playing. You know, he said no. He said it's live, and so you know the message, and you know I talk about hip hop all the time, and the negative consequences of what is really gifted, poetic, you know, rhymes and things that take place. But, you know, Fred, you and I, we grew up on rappers that like hip hop, to hip it to the hip, hip hop, you don't stop the rock, to the bang, bang boogie, say up jump the boogie. But, you know, I can't imagine walking in the house saying the curse word. And look, if my mama would have saw me coming in there on TV and seeing me cussing right there and talking about another one, I knew she would have been waiting for me.
I didn't have to see my mama. I just just knowing the words was there. I couldn't say it just thinking about it.
No question.
You know.
Yeah. You know, all she had to do was look at me. You saying that? You know, and understanding the how we are not addressing, you know, this crisis, but it's just not there. It's deeper than that, and that's what I'm talking about. It's the 10 years earlier.
Well, unfortunately, Coach, it's normalized.
Amen.
And when we normalize it, these little kids, they know the words many times. You know,
you're preaching now, bro.
They know it, and that's what pushes the envelope to make it. Oh, they know it anyway.
Yeah.
And make it a commonplace. But man, can you imagine that rippling throughout the NBA and knowing that basketball, that sport, the impact that it has on these young kids and the level of normalization that not only the lyrics, but, you know, just knowing that club is there.
Do y'all remember that time the Snoop Dogg at the University of Kansas did that pole dance and all that fell out because he didn't even know when they had him come up there? I mean, that's something we'll talk about next time. But see, that's when Snoop Dogg did that, he performed at halftime for University of Kansas and he brought a pole out.
Wow.
And it got huge backlash, and all Snoop could say, well, y'all knew what y'all was getting when y'all got when y'all got Snoop. I mean, that's Snoop. I mean, you know what I'm saying? But the same thing. Well, you had children at the game, you know. But hey, man, we got to keep on bringing light to darkness. Keep praying, keep working, and God has told us to go. And like I said, you don't spell God without spelling go. So we're gonna keep going. And ask God to show his face in the middle of the challenges that we see. But we want to bring glory to God's story through the work we're doing. Bishop, would you please pray us out?
God, thank you that somebody still stepped up to the plate to make a difference in that moment. And we need other moments like that in our communities, in our schools, God, in our homes, and to save our young people. And we just lift it up to you tonight as we continue to go forth. Help us all in Jesus' name. Amen.
Amen.
Try.